Partner, Chris Broussard is at it again.
Yes, in the best of ways.
As you and everybody else in this fan base adores, including myself, by the way, because I like good entertainment, and Chris gives us all that and more. When he pops on First Things First, decides to throw on a pair of sunglasses, decides to throw on a purple robe on national television with maybe some chips, with maybe a soda and a whole lot of charisma, and then guest books Rashod Bateman, it's probably going to catch our attention. That's what he and his panel had a chance to do this past weekend. What was your thought before we play it?
Now, play it
the
first.
Entertainment level of this.
Oh, it's off the charts. Play it for everybody to see and hear.
Off we go. First things first. And Bate making an appearance with the guys. And there's the screenshot, of course, which is hysterical. Here is the actual segment itself. And by the way, we can't actually play the video. There's screen grabs over it for copyright purposes. Just know that Bateman was in mean mugging form. The dude was barely laughing.
He's like arms folded.
Oh, he was business-like and then some, which I kind of love from him. But Chris was still having a boatload of fun right off the top, and he put on a show.
Okay. There we go.
This is how.
There we go.
That's right. That's my man, right? Like, this is how I celebrate Ravens victories. I am the number one Ravens fan on the national scene. And when you guys, particularly on the road, when you go into somebody's house and whip them, I say you go into their house, you put on their bathrobe, you kick your feet up on their coffee table, you make them make you a sandwich. Go make me a sandwich and get me some potato chips. That's what y'all do on the road, and I'm here for it. Here's
we can continue that.
Yes, I do too.
For sure.
Here's my one thing though. I haven't been able to do this in the playoffs. So is this the year, Rashod, where I am going to be able to do this in Nick Wright's face in the postseason?
Yeah, man, I definitely think that's the year that we all put it together. Man,
That's what I'm talking about.
For sure, man. That's the only way we feel right now, man. Lamar's hungry, obviously. The whole team is hungry, and, man, all we got to do is, connect and play big in those moments, man. We find a way to put it together, then I think we can, we got a shot, per usual.
That's music to my ears. Music to my ears. I love it, my man.
And that is how the Chris Broussard First Things First with Rashod Bateman segment began, Sarah. Those of you who haven't caught it, if you're wondering what Nick, I'm sure many of you are. I tweeted it out last week. Everybody was wondering, what did Nick ask? Sarah, Nick focused on exactly what Chris kind of was getting at there, and that is the differences, whether it's tightening up or pressure management, whatever. We've been obviously spending all offseason trying to figure out what's their Achilles heel in January, ball security, whatever it is. Nick essentially asked a respectful, I might add, question to Rashod about what changes and if he observes anything that's, and I'm sure these guys are getting sick of that question, but that's what Nick Wright asked Rashod during this interview.
What was the answer?
It was just the same type of. I don't even remember. It was so carbon copy of what. You want to know what?
You built up the question so well. I was ready to hear what the answer was.
It was nothing memorable. It was just the same type of stuff that all these guys say, which is, hey, we gotta get our eggs and we gotta get our ducks in order. We gotta essentially translate what we've been able to do in the regular season to the postseason. I mean, it's all to me. It's all the same type
generic answers for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, yes. Well, knowing that Nick Wright was like, well, it's going to change, which is a fair question, but still coming from Nick Wright. Here's what I love about this show is they do put their biases out there for us to see. I feel like so many reporters or even opinion commentators like these guys pretend that they're objective. Listen, I'm open about it too. I worked for the Ravens for 13 years. I know a lot of people around there. I love the Ravens. I want them to win. There's my bias. Everybody can know. And I love that Chris Broussard is clearly showing his bias, and Nick Wright clearly shows his bias for his Kansas City Chiefs. So you better believe I want nothing more than for Chris Broussard in the playoffs when inevitably the Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs meet after the Ravens have beaten the Bills in the playoffs has to happen in order for them probably to make it to the Chiefs. And when that happens, who in this fan base would love to see Chris Broussard to put on that purple robe? And look, Bobby, he's got the old school Ravens logo, 30 years. That's the one they used in that first year before there was like a big copyright lawsuit and all that, and the Ravens had to change their logo. But he's got on that old one from 30 years ago. And he wants nothing more than to go to his pal, Nick Wright, Kansas City Chiefs fan, and say, bring me a sandwich and some chips and a soda pop. So, hey, like to hear that confidence that Bateman had. This is the year we put it all together. It's music to all of our ears, but we need it to actually happen. But we can only take it 1 week at a time. But I would love for that day to come where Chris Broussard could do that in Nick Wright's face in the postseason.
I got to say, the panel really struggled interviewing Rashod. He's been making his rounds these days since the breakout happened, but it just wasn't that like engaging of a conversation. I don't know if it was the generic questions that he's already answered a million times over the course of this offseason and now into training camp and regular press conferences, but it was just very, Rashod was not very animated in the interview. And maybe that's a good thing because the dude is locked in and he's trying to build off of what he did last year. And a big part of that puzzle, of course, is Lamar Jackson. They found that chemistry, Sarah, that so much of Ravens Nation has been yearning for over the years with the lack of availability at times leading into leading into the 2023, because Rashod's been healthy now for 2 straight seasons. Mm-hmm. The dude's been ready to go. He's stacked availability. It's awesome. But that Lamar chemistry that we watched really from a big play standpoint, hence the nickname Big Play Bait, showcased itself last year. And Rashod talked about some observations that he's had of what he's watched from number 8 recently.
No, it's like, yeah, but it's a much deeper conversation. But the dude's a 99 overall for a reason, so it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint what he does wrong. That's why I don't get paid to do that. That's a marketing job. But Lamar, he's very, more vocal than he's ever have been about what he wants from us, even to the staff, to the O-linemen. He's definitely pushing the agenda of, just staying hungry and, being competitive. He's definitely a competitive guy. He's leading us in the right direction with that.
Sarah, that matches up directly and perfectly with what other beat reporters shared from over the weekend, including Jeff Zaribek of The Athletic, the vocal piece of that. He said he's the most vocal he's ever been. And Jeff said, this is the most vocal I've ever seen in a practice setting, in a training camp setting from Lamar. Now, obviously, we know why, going back to our early segment, given some of the lack of polish, I think is a way of putting it. And Lamar's not going to stand for that, nor should he. And the fact that now year 8 for him, it's funny to watch the evolution of a player that has gone from the rookie, the player who leads by example, maybe the unassuming player, not the way he plays. I'm just talking about the way he chooses to lead. You're starting to see a shift in recent years from Lamar. And why wouldn't you? It's year 8. The guy's been around the building.
Good. We need all of it. Take all the intensity up a notch. Lamar, just wants to win. It's a team sport. He's obviously the leader. He's the face of the franchise right now. He has been since he took over the starting role, MVP, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you're the leader on the field with your actions. And so, they all do it in different ways for sure, but he's got to direct everybody and he's got to make sure everybody's in the right spot, doing the right thing. And so hearing that he, slammed his helmet when they were false starts and then the offense goes off, that's the type of fire you kind of want to see from your leader. And Bobby, in that clip, Rashod Bateman said it's not his job to critique Lamar, but it is his job to run routes. And I thought that was pretty cool how people were asking him how he does that, how he's so good at route running. What has he done? He talks about film study and shouted out a Hall of Famer at the position.
On the field and practicing it for one, but also just watching a lot of film. I watch a lot of Jerry Rice. I watch a lot of other guys in the league, even Zay Flowers himself. But you got to be a student of the game, and I'm blessed to be a student of the game. I love it, and I'm always trying to find different ways to tip off, the DBs to make a thing go left and go right. So, some guys don't have it, and some guys do have it, and me and Zay are definitely two receivers that I think, definitely have, what it takes to be at that elite level in route running. If you go to YouTube, it's a highlight tape of him, but it's like very, very old. You gotta look very closely for sure. But you can see, that he was ahead of his time when he was playing. He run routes how a lot of us do today, and there wasn't a lot of guys, doing it back then. So he was definitely the OG in route running for me, for sure.
Bobby, I gotta imagine that one of the favorite things from a wide receiver perspective is just obviously going up and making a sick catch over somebody. Maybe they moss somebody in the end zone, maybe come down, get a toe tap, first down or something like that. But another one that that Bateman was speaking to there, he just loves setting up corners. I'm going to make you think I'm going this way, and you start going that way. And if a camera's on us, the camera lost you because you went one way and I went another way. And we just showed a clip of Zay Flowers doing that against one of the Colts defensive backs last week during a joint practice. Outside of making like a moss catch in the end zone or like a toe tapping catch, like that's got to be up there on their list of just things that they love to do. I'm setting you up. You go that way, I go that way. I'm wide open, and I got myself open because I fooled you.
He's not kidding either. It doesn't take you long when you go to Rashod Bateman's official YouTube channel to figure out how he is and how he's gotten himself in the shape and the technique, right? He's really become a technician from a route running standpoint. Go watch his YouTube videos. I mean, he gives you an inside look, especially with the one in Miami that he worked and trained with Zay Flowers. I mean, the cone work, the strength training, everything he's doing with his team, it all correlates. So he's a lot of fun, and I love the little inside look that YouTube channel gives. It's a great little inside look. And speaking of inside looks, I think DeAndre Hopkins gave us an inside look into his mind when it comes to some of the players that he has a chance to go up against. In speaking of cornerbacks in this case, and he was asked, "Hey, throughout your early time with the Ravens, is there anybody that you enjoy battling with from a DB standpoint?" And Sarah, he mentioned unprompted, really. I mean, this was his decision on who he could choose from. And we've already talked about all the ones that are options in that room. A second-year player and a first-rounder that had a pretty darn good first year. Look at him getting some love from a 13-year vet and a future Hall of Famer in DeAndre Hopkins.
I like going against all of them, but I would say specifically Nate Wiggins. I think Nate is he's a young guy who loves competing. He wants to be great. Obviously Jair and I have played against each other before, but I've never played against Nate. Chig, I played against him, I played with him in Tennessee. So I would say, Nate, just because, him and I have never really got reps against each other. And, he's a young corner who wants to be great.
When you see him, do you feel like he has all the tools that you need to be top level at that position? Oh,
yeah, of course. He's a Clemson guy. So, we train him well around there, man. But Nate, he competes every day. He doesn't complain, comes out and work. He has every tool set that you look for in lockdown corner.
Sarah, side note, the Clemson experience might be among the best, if not the best, in all of college football. I don't have a ton under my belt, but Death Valley was unreal. And that town lives, eats, breathes, sleeps college football. And both of those guys, as DeAndre mentioned, were Clemson Tigers. But Sarah, for him to single out Nate, granted gave everybody their flowers in the room, but we've seen these battles play out through some clips that have surfaced through Ravens productions, DeAndre being on the winning end. One play that comes to mind that Nate was called, or what was it? Oh, excuse me. DeAndre was called for an OPI, but just the battle, the sticky coverage, DeAndre going up and getting that ball that was perfectly placed in the right-hand corner of that end zone early on in training camp, with Nate being on the wrong end. But then again, he was on the right end because it was an OPI. It just speaks to the great work that a young player is getting from one of the most savviest that has ever played the game in a lot of ways, in DeAndre Hopkins. And you got to think that that's going to pay dividends for him come regular season when the bullets are flying.
You also got to think that DeAndre relishes the opportunity because he is one of those guys that does like to mentor. I remember a lot of reports coming out of Kansas City about how much he liked to mentor the wide receivers there. And I know he's doing the same thing with the receivers here, but on top of it, he's like, wait a minute, we have a reputation to keep up as Clemson men, you know? And so I'm sure there's a part of him that just relishes in being able to prepare him for the NFL season and just have another, alumni from Clemson do well in the league. And so I just love that about DeAndre, that he is always looking to help out others and bring them along and grow them. And on top of it all, sure sounds like he still is playing pretty well out there, and his connection with Lamar has gotten off to a pretty good start.